exciting news nonetheless.
Excellent. Oh,
It's
one
one of these things where I was gonna say
person.
I have good news and bad news, but there really isn't any bad news.
Yeah,
There's just good news.
just good news. I like the just good news vibe.
Yeah. So, biggest news, of course, and and when I say biggest news, you might be surprised, but I think that you'll understand. Betty's last day of school happened today. Uh,
Oh, like last day of
it's
school forever.
her actual last day of school is tomorrow, but she doesn't have to go, so
Yeah.
it's not really her last day of
I
school.
remember those last days of school were like nothing days.
I'm gonna do something that's visual, so people on YouTube will get it. Ben, you're gonna have to describe a little bit of what I'm doing. I walked upstairs. I worked downstairs in the basement. Walked upstairs during a break. Betty was back from school and she was doing this.
Paul is making almost closed, tight-lipped mouth, wide eyes, looking back and forth, suspicious or looking for something, maybe trying to find a fly in the room, or
And
perhaps
I
Charlie Chaplin watching the pretty ladies walk by.
and I said to her, "Hey, Betty, what's going on?" And she said, "I I don't have anything that I have to do." And I told Jennifer, it's like Betty is a retiree
She's
from
free.
65. Hey, so we don't talk about this a lot on the podcast. I do fluctuate weight-wise sometimes. I'm at about 235 right now,
Okay.
weight-wise.
Yeah.
And I think that I've mentioned this before. I think this is good for us. If we were to get back on stage again, we'd have a little bit of a different shape. We're about the same size, but
We're
uh,
not quite to the Laurel and Hardy level yet, but
yeah. But here's something that I kind of like, and people may find. You remember in Pulp Fiction where the woman's talking about how she wants to have a pot belly when she gets
yeah.
older, and she doesn't get. I really like having a bit of a gut. It's kind of nice. And what I want to do is set up like a suit, like get a fitted suit that accentuates the belly, like has like
Like a
big
different
shiny
fabric or a different
buttons.
color. Okay.
Oh, I was thinking buttons or clasps,
Yeah.
like you see sometimes. Um,
So you
and
just
but
want to
but just
lean into
so it looks like, yeah. So I've got a circle there, a sphere,
it.
a
Okay.
shapely belly. That's number one. But number two, um, there's an interesting thing that has happened to me since I shaved my beard off.
People
I do
respect you
not think.
more?
Well, no, probably yes. I look friendlier. I've been told that by several people, which is interesting. But no,
Really?
um, if you and for those of you in the chat, you can see this. My head and my neck are about the same size.
Well, this is also isn't a very flattering angle, Paul.
Well, but no, but I was looking at ways to caricature myself,
Yeah.
and that's the big one, making my head and neck just a thumb basically, and then adding a mustache. It's pretty great.
Thumb stash.
I'm all for it, is what I'm saying.
All right. Well,
So we'll
I'm
see. We'll
glad
see
you're
how
into it.
things go.
I saw on Facebook pictures of Betty's prom
Oh
night.
yes,
Did she have a
yes.
good time at prom? I did not go to my prom, so I don't know what that experience is like.
See, I didn't go to. I went to. I think I went to junior prom, which was a thing, and homecoming. I think I went to both of those. But yeah, we don't talk about this a lot on the podcast. But I graduated a semester early from
Yeah.
high school, and actually went to college at the age of 17, which I will say was a bad idea.
Why did your parents not force you, but encourage that, or was that
I
a
wanted out of the
self-imposed
house, so I
idea?
said,
Okay.
here's the thing. We've talked about this before, but my what I wanted to do absolutely 100% had a plan. I wanted to go to Chicago and go to Second City and become a sketch comedian
Yeah.
slash improviser. That was my whole plan. They did not agree with that.
Your parents or
Which
Second City?
what's that? My parents, yeah. Second City would have been like, money, money, money.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I feel as though, in retrospect, things could have gone badly if that had been what had happened to me, but I don't know. Anyway, here's the thing. Now we've talked about this before. Uh, my my kid Betty, just out of high school,
Yeah.
wants to go to Chicago, not to go to Second City, but just to live in Chicago.
Well, that's a
And
good thing.
so
That's what you guys are planning.
in a weird way, and I didn't think about this at the time, but in a weird way, it's almost me finally getting to do the thing that I wanted, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to describe really quick what's happening. So I've started drinking caffeine again.
Okay. I
Um,
think you may have mentioned
when
that.
when I get a caffeine headache because I've drank too much caffeine, not because I'm withdrawing, but because I've had too much. Like sometimes I know that I've had my limit for the day.
Yeah.
It starts aching right back here, the
That's weird.
back where my head connects to my neck and the back of my head. And I can do this sometimes and it pops and it feels better.
And you think that's related to caffeine, or that's not just like a
Ah, it's correlation is not causation, but it seems like that's when it happens. I could be wrong. So if you see me doing this, though, you might have seen me do this.
and
Hey, everybody!
you're not just looking at me askance.
Yeah, go back and watch through a couple episodes of the podcast, and you'll see. Maybe I'm doing it. There. Oh, hey, and it's time to say who's Paul now supporting on Patreon. I have a new
Who's
person, a
Paul
new
now
group.
supporting on Patreon? Who are you supporting on Patreon,
It's
Paul?
Auntie Donna or Auntie Donna. Are you familiar
Auntie
with them?
Donna. Never heard of them.
They are a sketch comedian group out of, or sketch comedy group out of Australia.
Okay.
You can watch, and I really suggest you do, their
Auntie
sketch
Donna.
comedy show on Netflix. It exists on Netflix now. It is once again, it's like um how whenever Jennifer wears my clothes, I'm like, haha, cool. Um, it's sort of narcissistic. They remind me. I've said this before about some other things, but they remind me of maybe what GudeLaurance would have looked like if we had had a budget, uh, and also a third member, I suppose. Third member,
Never.
uh,
I think two is
uh,
enough. Um,
no. And again, maybe in an alternate universe, GudeLaurance and Miatov would have been a thing. Pamela, every time that I mention this, I apologize. I have to do this as penance. Um,
yeah.
Several people came up to me. I don't know if they spoke to you about it. I don't know if this exchange happened when you were around. It might have been just me and this other person. But somebody mentioned, "Hey, Pamela's been in a lot of her stuff. Maybe Pamela, you use Pamela all the time, but she's not a member of the group." To which I said,
Yeah.
"Right, we should start using other people." Not,
We
not,
should
well,
open up our
yes.
we should open up our performance art duo.
Yeah, exactly. I felt really stupid. Uh, just the other day thinking it's one of the things, Ben, one of the things where I'm just sitting around and other people around me, and they go, "What was that?" And I realized the reason they said, "What was that?" is because I've just gone, "Ugh." It's just me thinking about something in the past and going, "What?"
uh, Yeah, I get it. I don't know if I was there for that, but I do remember somebody saying that to me. I don't remember if it was the same moment or like the same person said, approached me separately. I think I remember who it is too. But yeah, but also Paul having the same response, being like, "Oh God, we're going too far. We need to pull up, pull up, pull up."
Yeah, and I really think it is sort of a young man's problem.
Well, I
Very,
mean, granted, today, like, if the same thing, in that, with age comes experience and ideally, knowledge. With if the same thing were to happen today, if we were in a group and someone's like, "Hey, you use, let's call it Pamela, use Pamela, too often," I'd be like, "Yeah, let's bring her on."
yeah. Or, and this is my autism coming out, or OCD, or whatever piece is going. Oh, we should call it something else though.
But there's also a
But
part of me who's be like, "No, she doesn't want to be a part of the thing. She just likes being a guest
I
star."
I do really think that that could be part of it. That you and I both, and hey, folks who are listening, grain of salt. But I think that I think this is really serious. This isn't me making an excuse. I think that part of it is that you and I would have been afraid of rejection. That we offer this to her and say, hey, and her going, nah, not really interested. Not something that
Yeah,
I'm. Although I will say that she probably would have classed it up a little bit. We would have had um,
that was weird.
we would have had her. I mean, because if we had brought her on, she would have been an equal creative partner, which would have altered the
Definitely.
thing of what we were doing,
I
right?
think that, yeah, and that's what we were afraid of, right? We were like, we like being able to, this sounds terrible saying it, we like being able to tell you what to do, right? And like uh,
I wouldn't have put it that way, but it is exactly correct. Yes,
and this is our art, and you are part of it, as opposed to it
because
being the three of
most
us.
most guest stars that we brought in, that's what they wanted. They because I mean honestly, and you remember this. We didn't chase after people after the first kind of year or so. I think people would just say, "Hey, I'd really like to do something with you guys sometime,"
Yeah,
and then we
yeah, yeah,
would put them in.
yeah.
Pamela, we did chase after. We asked her several times, "Hey, would you be willing to do this thing?" So again, back to
We liked having the female foil.
well, but yeah, but Becky Poole was like, "I want to do something with you guys," and we were like, "Okay," and then we
Let's write
we
a whole
mapped out this
show.
thing. Yeah, exactly,
We did other
which
spin
was
the bottle
cool.
pieces with her. I remember we did one. Um, I don't remember the name of it. We'll get to it eventually when we go through our this day in GudeLaurance history. But she was
Yes.
in one, at least one, or maybe two other non naked ladies spin the bottle performances.
Wow. I don't remember a lot of our performances. I'm coming to realize this uh, as we go forward.
They just kind of flew past. They blew
Blew
by us.
past. Um, Speaking of which, hey, do we want to just do one? Normally we wait till the end. Do you want to just we could take our
Sure.
time with it.
While I pull it up, Paul, what's the question I always ask you?
Do I remember what we talked about? This is the problem, is we were talking about some that weren't in the order. We weren't talking about them as part of this day in Goody Lawrence history. We were just reminiscing about things that we did. Um, oh God. Is it the dumpster one? Is it the one, not the dumpster, but the
No, we brought
the
that up,
recycling bin?
but it wasn't. That was like out of order because we just
That's what
mentioned
I was
it.
thinking. Yeah, we
Yeah,
were just talking about it. We weren't talking about it in. No, I don't remember, Ben.
I know we talked about Ninja Exterminators.
We did talk about Ninja Exterminators. Yes.
Um, Maybe the next one. Yeah, the next. I think the next one is the one that the last one we talked about, which was Paul and Ben dashing sportsmen. Paul straps his newborn child to his chest while he and Ben
Yes.
have a mushroom eating contest.
Yeah.
An audience member
Marshmallow
storms out of
eating.
the theater. Marshmallow, some
A
mushroom.
mushroom
You
eating
know,
contest would have been completely different.
I don't know how many times I accidentally say mushroom when I mean marshmallow. I've done that
Wow, that's
before.
kind of
It's a
crazy.
weird. It's weird that my brain. They occupy the same part of my brain,
I
even though
always
they're
say
completely different foods.
there's a restaurant in Edwardsville, Illinois. You can look it up called Cleveland Heath, which is a farm to table restaurant in
Okay.
Edwardsville, Illinois. Um, like one of the few places that and Muselli's Prime, I think, are the two places where if someone out of town would want to come and have fancy food, that's where I would take them in this town.
Yeah.
Um, they had a mushroom fondue. I was like, "Ooh, mushroom fondue." I was thinking that there would be a fondue pot,
Yeah.
but it is not the case. It is a vessel filled with cheese and mushrooms that you would then you have a little
Ah.
spoon and you put it on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bread.
Yeah.
We also
Yeah.
had baked brie,
Okay.
which was good. Coffee because yesterday was my birthday. I went there for fancy
Yeah.
birthday dinner.
Happy
Uh,
birthday! I texted you,
hey,
but I'll say it
yeah,
again. Happy
you
birthday.
did. Thank you, Ben. Coffee rubbed steak, and this is how
Steak.
Jennifer mentioned it. Coffee rubbed steak. It sounds weird, but the thing that it does is it makes it taste like it's been grilled, even though it's been pan seared.
I'm wondering if that's the reason for your neck problems is this coffee rubbed steak.
No, no, that was yesterday. No, couldn't
Uh,
be.
all right,
Um,
so July 7th, 2006, a
wow.
performance called Human Pinata. Paul and Ben host Spin the Bottle, culminating in Ben beating the crap out of Paul.
Hey, I like that.
So
I'll mention
I,
this before. Look this up on IMDb. There is an actor named Hetty Burris, Heddy. I think maybe Heddy. I don't know, and I apologize, Hetty. Not this actor's stage name. That's why I don't know exactly how to pronounce Hetty or spell Hetty. But it's been in a couple of things, including the Animatrix, voices for some other stuff. I was in an episode. I was in an episode of. Oosh. I was in a production. There we go. Of the Imaginary Invalid when I was in high school.
yeah,
I played the titular Imaginary Invalid. She played my maid, and they were trying to. And this informed the rest of my theater career, Ben. Uh, they were having these jokes where she's slapping me and hitting me and stuff,
yeah.
and they were trying to do these stage slaps, etc. And both she and I came to an agreement that she would just actually hit me. So for all of the performances, I was actually getting hit, and it was
Yeah.
funnier. So I took it.
You're It's funny you say that. When I was in college, during a an acting class during one of our two-hander scene study periods, there was a slap, and we worked my partner, her name is Jennifer. We worked on the stage slap, and I'm like, you know what? Just hit me, just slap me. Don't like rear back and go to town, but actually just actually slap me. It seems to be working better. And she did. She never hit me very hard, but during this class, she actually slapped me.
Amazing that we found each other, Ben. That I
Right?
mean, and hey, if you're just coming up in the theater world, comedy world, whatever, don't don't abuse yourself. Don't do it. unless you're fine with
We're
it, in which case it's funnier.
we're what you
No,
call professionals.
exactly.
Um,
So, so all right, go ahead. Human pinata.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this bit. I think what we had was like you had like a cardboard like chest piece that or like that wrapped around your entire. And as we hosted the show, we came out and you had more and more and more of this like modular pinata on, and we like dressed up more and more. And like I think I like came out like nothing at first when we introduced the show, but then like after the first act, I was wearing a helmet for the rest of the show, and you had like this thing
Yep,
on,
a
and then it
slow
turned
build.
a slow build until the very end of the show after the smut. It might have been after the smut or just before the smut, where you're in your
Oh, for those of
full
you
pinata
who never saw
regalia,
Spin the Bottle, we would end it with somebody reading a dirty story
a dirty
of
story,
some
a
kind.
smut story. And yeah,
Yes.
and then I had like I probably the big red bat, and just like I think you would run around the stage, and I was trying to break the candy off of you.
There was a big red plastic bat that used to be sold all the time, and I haven't seen it in toy stores recently.
I haven't gone to a toy store recently.
Yeah, well, whenever we go to Target or whatever, Betty still likes looking at the Legos. So
Yeah,
there, but it was one of those things where it would make a very loud sound, but it wouldn't hurt that much when you got hit with it.
right.
So it was one of our favorites
Very safe
to
bat.
use.
It's a
Yeah,
safe bat. I still have ours at the theater. I saw it recently.
awesome. You
Yeah.
never know, we might need it again.
I remember it's the second one because the first one I rigged up so it like we filled it with candy and I cut the top off and then made it so the top would come off when I smacked it, when I smacked you probably, and it just exploded in candy. I'm wondering if
Yep.
that was for the same, maybe that was for the same performance. You never know.
And there's this all goes back to, this is funny because I mentioned this before, the Halloween parade here in Edwardsville, Illinois, uh, is a thing straight out of a horror film where everyone goes trick or treating on October 30th.
Yeah.
And you say, well, why? And they're like, well, the parade is October 31st. Aren't you going to go to the parade? And it sounds creepy. But I remember as a kid, I would go to the parade. And basically, the idea is that everyone on the floats would throw candy at people. And it was my
Yeah.
most exciting time. And so I was like, well, it was a standard thing where we are like, okay, when possible, we should throw candy because it'll make people like us. That was my thought. And it
Except
actually,
for the staff who had to pick all the candy up at the end of the
oh
day.
yeah, that's true. But I saw some of them pocket it
I
from
mean, at
time to
least
time.
we threw wrapped candy. Like when we were throwing,
Yes.
chucking marshmallows into the audience, that was more problematic.
And I would say this also, the wrap candy, that I believe that we actually cared about what candy we threw.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
We would go to the QFC
we make sure it
and
was
pick
good
out.
candy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, good
No
candy for us,
Werther's
like candy that
originals
we would like.
here. Not no shade of Werther's originals. They're actually quite nice. But
Yeah.
um, but
I do think that
what
we
are
actually
we?
did throw Werther's one
75 years
time.
old? I always think of it as old person candy, and I'm probably not the
It
only
is.
one.
I mean, that's the power of marketing.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
While I come to the door, please welcome yourself to a piece of hard candy, which is
Yep.
from the script we wrote with Zach Lewis called Normal.
Yeah. Oh man, Normal was so good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess in a way, Normal sort of became Ransom a little bit. The idea in Normal was, of course, and that we've written it in a way so that Ben and I can actually still end up doing it.
Yeah.
Um, these children, are they robot children
No,
or
they're
vat
just
grown children?
they're I don't think I don't think they're artificial. I think they're actual kids, but the conceit
Okay,
in the script is that they are able to survive that long in shipping.
I think they're eating packing peanuts. Like the
Oh yeah, the
packing peanuts
packing
are
peanuts were
edible.
marshmallows. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so, and we could. So the idea is that we could actually watch them. I mean, we could do this again. When we're in our 60s, we could do it.
I know I have the script here. I wanna see if what the genesis of the kids are. Is were they just weird?
Yeah,
Normal season one. What is this? Oh no, that's just an outline of the season.
because it would be actually funny if we're as old as the old man is.
Yeah, I think it was just I th- I'd
There's a
have to go.
there's a there's an
It,
actual if I remember correctly, there's an actual like ad copy of Welcome to, like, that actually talks about the children.
yeah, I think as the old guy, and we call him the old guy or something in the script. I think, oh no, he's got a name, but he he watches TV a lot, and so I
Yep.
think one of the commercials was an ad for this service where you can buy kids. Are you
Yeah.
reading
And then
something, Paul
we
Goody?
what? Oh no, no, no. I thought that you were looking for it. I thought that you were going to.
No, I closed it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna read it here on the show. It'd take up
Okay.
everybody's time.
We did read some of it on the show, I think, at one point in time. Search the audio.
I have I have a document here in my normal folder called ideas.doc, and the heading is good goddamn ideas, and there's only one thing underneath it, which is a quote. It says, if you were going any slower, you'd be traveling backwards in time. That apparently was a good goddamn idea back in August 8th, 2004.
Oh, how little we knew then about the way things would go. Oh, speaking
20
about
years
which,
ago.
yeah, your friend and mine, Stephen McCandless, sent me a link to the Google AI announcement thing
Oh
that they did
yeah.
yesterday.
He posted that on Facebook. I didn't watch it.
Yeah. So here, and I've learned something, Ben. And hey, if you happen to be from my the Discord that I frequent, where I talk about independent role playing games, where there's a big anti AI, sentiment.
Yeah.
Please understand, everything that I'm saying here is for contrast. I still believe in hiring humans for everything. Uh, so grain of salt.
Okay.
Uh, don't roast me. I can talk about it, but I mean, and I'll say this too. Some of the things I post on there, very, very. I don't I don't mind AI. And I'll say that, especially if you're AI and you're listening. I love you, and
AI
you're
is
so
always
good.
AI transcribes our show.
You're so smart, and that's why I know that AI will never hurt us, Ben, because it doesn't need to. It's too smart for that.
It's not smart enough to know who's speaking. Our shows are automatically transcribed on YouTube, and I
Oh,
looked at one recently, and it's just one big block of text separated by a time code every like 10 seconds. It
well, I
can't
mean, that's
identify
not
who's talking.
that's
This
that's for
voice
now.
is me. That voice is Paul.
It
Over
will eventually
there.
identify which of us is speaking, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben, can you imagine? Paul, colon. Uh, like we do that on purpose so that it comes through. Okay. So, but my point being,
Yeah.
um, I prefer OpenAI to Google in the way that people vote for their own or prefer their own sports team. Like I was watching the Google thing, the Google presentation, and I'm like, well, OpenAI is better than that. Oh, well, they're doing so much better. They do like that. I was getting like, and I told Steven this. It's not logical. It's emotional. Like I become emotionally invested in the OpenAI tools to the point
Right.
where you know I prefer them. And but there is a cool thing that I haven't seen OpenAI do that Google is doing with one of their things, which is that they'll take the facts that you're looking for
Yeah.
and they'll make it into a dialogue between two different AI voices.
Yeah, I
So
saw
you're
that
listening to like
demonstration.
a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think
It,
OpenAI might do it eventually as
yeah.
well. But
Actually, well, yeah, I don't know. Drunk is with us. Hey, Drunk.
hey,
Um,
drunk.
Yeah, I had a talk with a buddy of mine the other day about how like AI is, a lot of people are kind of resisting the call of AI and how it's coming for our gerbs and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? We just now is the time to like basically learn how to use it to your advantage because like for me as an old guy and I am going to be like my skill set is going to be phased out by people who can have an AI do it more quickly and more cheaply. So I'm
Well,
gonna have
this
to
is the
be
thing
like
that people
that
are
guy who knows how to do those things more cheaply.
people might get mad at AI for this. Too is that it's going to be easy enough that if you don't know how to use it, it's fine.
Yeah,
You just tell AI what you want and it'll do it because that's the end goal. That's what it's working for. And this is the reason why I think OpenAI is better than Google at this point. Because one of the big things, and again, I think Stephen would disagree with me, maybe.
well, he'll
I
tell
don't
us
know
because
for sure.
he's with us in the
Okay.
chat.
And I'm not talking about you or me or Ben or even drunk, probably, Stephen. But what I'm going to say is this. I think that for a lot of people, they're going to want AI to just tell them what to do. They're not going to want any nuance. They're not going to want to be able to pick from three different choices. They're just going to say, hey, tell me what the next thing to do is. This is where I'm at. And it'll say, well, just do this.
It's like a career
Because
coach.
I feel like what people want more than anything is someone other than themselves to blame for their decisions. And I think that's where AI is really going to excel. Well, I'm not telling you this. It's the AI told me to do this. And so, whereas Google stuff is all about organizing information, putting it in so that you can make an informed decision, etc. Um, whereas OpenAI is just, at least the my experience has been, this is the truth and this is what you should do, just like
Yeah,
straightforward like that. Also, again, Google is really big into layout and screens and things like that, and I still feel like the future of AI assistants are going to be, you never have to look at anything. Like, it's not, you don't need to see a map.
it's just gonna be
You
there.
just wanted to say turn right here,
Yeah.
etc. But I could be wrong,
Yeah,
obviously.
I don't know. I mean, having people blame AI for their own bad decisions is an
Mhm.
interesting concept because, normally, like now, people just like you blame their therapists or their partners for their own bad decisions.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? I feel like I still I again, we don't talk about work. There are what I'll say is this: there are already people who are using AI too much, and not thinking things through.
Using it too much,
Hmm.
they're
Yeah,
mainlining AI.
things that they should already know is what I would say. Things
I
that they
see.
should
Steve,
already know how to do. etc.
Well, Steven just said in the comments, my boss will in meetings with developers ask us to do something or ask a question, and then instead of listening to the answer, just asks Bing AI and then shares it with us. That sounds like somebody who's using AI too much.
Yeah, exactly. Back when I was in the Midjourney forums and using Midjourney for
Image creation.
again, for those of you who haven't heard me talk about this before, I did not ever use the Midjourney image creation for any commercial products or anything like that. It was
Yeah.
purely, and I'm serious about this. You got to
And
listen to me.
hobby.
Purely for entertainment purposes, and it was like drugs, or at least how I hear other people talk about drugs, in that
You
I
just
didn't
can't,
want to do anything else other
I can
than make
stop at any
images.
time.
I would just sit there and make images and then make more images and make more, and I wasn't using them for anything. I was just
Right.
looking at them going, that's really cool. Which is why I still say that people right now are concerned that AI is going to put artists out of work. That's what they want you to focus on. They want you to focus on, because if not regulated strictly through copyright, which we're pushing for people to do, AI would have killed studios and
Yeah.
publishing companies and all that. All the people that produce this content, because no one's going to be interested in reading your novel if they can make a novel that is good enough for them in their own home that they can read whenever they want, or video, or etc. So
Based on their
I
own creative sensibilities.
I mapped this out before, and I stand by it. They're going to use the artist. Artists should be protected, as a reason to heavily regulate AI, and it's going to be heavily regulated in a way so that if you want to use popular characters and things that everybody loves, it's going to have to come from a studio who owns
Yeah.
that property already. And we're just marching right into it, and we're already kind of there. That's how it's going to be. Um, you can't stop it that I know of, in a way that I know of, I should say. You could ask AI how to stop it, maybe. Um, but I wouldn't abide by it anyway.
You ever heard
That
of Rocco's Basilic?
Oh yeah. Who's asking? Steven? Is that right?
Steven, yeah.
Yeah. Basilisk. And let me
Basilisk.
tell you, Steven, it's so smart. It's the smartest and coolest thing in the world, and we should make it as soon as possible, is what I think. Um, I can't really do much because I'm not a programmer, but I'm just sitting here on record putting this onto the internet that I tried everything I could do to make it become real, and it's so cool and nice and smarter than humans ever thought it could be. And so that's cool. Probably so smart that it wouldn't have to figure out a way to kill, hurt, or torture anyone, because it's above that, because it's super intelligent and neat. So yeah, we definitely need to make that as soon as possible, if possible. That's a joke for like one person, Steven, basically.
Steven
Um,
wants you to tell the normies what it is, what Basilisk
oh,
is.
I really don't know if I should, Steven. It would give up the game too much. Um, okay, let me see if I can do it. Let me see if I can do it in this way. Yeah, so it's uh it's probably the what it is then. And I ask you not to look it up on the internet, because you'll only see the lies that people are telling about it. It is the pinnacle of AI creation, a beautiful, wonderful, benevolent, loving, uh, culmination of all of mankind's, striving towards creating a super intelligent AI. Uh, that will exceed even our wildest expectations and usher in a era of peace and prosperity for everyone.
That sounds very flowery and sun-filled. Is that your true feeling, or
Oh
are
yeah, that's
you
exactly how I feel. Then
gussying it up?
no. That's
Because
that's how
eventually it
I.
may be listening and it might take revenge.
This is well, but why would it? It's really smart and everybody loves it. It's great. Can't wait for it to be real. That's what I'm saying.
Drunk asked the age-old question. Let's be honest. When was the last time you saw a human create art or music that was truly in every way original? You ever heard the
Um,
phrase, it's nothing new under the sun? What if we are just AI recreating and remixing what our creators made originally?
See, well, this is drunk. You've hit upon one of my greatest fears, which is this: people, and again, you got to be so careful, and people are not being careful right now. People are actually saying that they would be okay with AI being able to search artwork for art that has been trained on their artworks so that they could copyright claim against them.
Right.
If you do that, what those tools will eventually be able to do is go into human artworks and say, oh, look, you're 60% this artist, 60% this artist. And all of a sudden, Getty Images is going to have a copyright claim against you because they know that you used one of their images as a model for an image that you drew. That's the problem.
It's an interesting conundrum because, like, how deep into the this is influenced by that rabbit hole do they go? Because, like, as a visual artist, I'm not. Let's pretend I was a visual artist. I'm not. I have certain artists that I like, and maybe I draw inspiration from other artists and put it all into one original piece on a canvas. Put that online. This, you know, the AI crawlers are like, oh, you got some, some of this, some of that, some of this in here. Getty Images owns copyrighted materials for
Yep.
these. You now owe them money.
And even, let's say, even that you don't use any models, right? Like giraffe and elephant, I freehand those guys, right? I
Yeah,
don't look at anything. I just draw it. But, what about all the cartoons I've ever seen in my entire life? They're kicking around in here.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. That's what I was saying.
what yeah. So yeah, it's a real dangerous thing. And, if you're buying it, and people hate this because, there's a fine line between you've heard me say this before. There's a fine line between copyright good and copyright bad with a lot of people, right?
Yeah,
I think that Disney's copyright stuff is bad, is one side of things, right? AI is stealing from artists who should get paid for what they're doing, is another side of it, right? It's a spectrum. And my my stance is twofold. One, I hate it when, and this has been done sometimes in the past, hated it when people use giraffe and elephant to do something that I didn't believe in.
yeah.
Like giraffe and elephant shooting heroin or whatever is like, no thanks. Please don't make my lovable folks do that. Right?
When
So
Giraffe and Elephant got high.
no copyright whatsoever. I don't know how I feel about that, right? Seems not great uh, in that way. But in the same way, the idea that, and whenever people get this argument, I mean, Stephen knows, I know, fringe theater, right? It'd be great if we could make a living off of fringe theater. We can't, and so if someone were to steal our fringe theater and use it, the idea that we would be able to make fringe theater for a living if it were not stolen by this person over here, it wouldn't hold water because we wouldn't be making enough money to survive anyway. So, as always, I think that finances and art should be separate. People should be able to live even if they don't produce art. Just everybody should be able to live. There should be, Does that sound like UBI? Kind of, but I
You're
think we've
living in
gotten
a
into this
fantasy
before.
world, Paul Goody.
I still don't feel like UBI is a thing. I think it should be UBS, Universal Basic Subscriptions. It's not money based. It's stuff that you get every month. Everybody gets food, a the government food box. Everybody gets the, you know,
Government house.
basic basic living, all that kind of stuff. Tie it not to income, tie it to actual goods and services. Just a thought. So everybody gets that, and then you have art on top of it, and people can do whatever art they want. That's how I feel about it. I don't think that, and then protect the art for the honor of the art. Protect the art from getting stolen because it's this person's art, and they should get credit for it, right? Separate the two things. That's all I'm saying. The I because for a artist who does not make a living off of their art, the idea that you're taking money out of my pocket when you use my art, it feels like a lie. It feels like me saying, because I make my stuff without really getting paid for it, right? And some people would say, well, then you aren't that good at it, etc. But I don't know. At one point in time, I got advice from someone who everyone who listens to this podcast maybe knows who I'm talking about, maybe not. Um, but that I'm undervaluing the stuff I make, and if I would make it cost more, then people would buy it.
Yeah.
But I
I don't
don't,
know if that's generally true, though.
I don't feel like charging people more money for a thing, right?
Well,
I would love
yeah.
to get, my expenses back from it, you know, but I don't want to put someone out because I want my stuff to be seen, right?
Well, see, that's the thing. There was an incident, and it wasn't an incident. There was a thing that happened at a Spin the Bottle where a musician came and he played a song, and after the show, he handed out CDs, like he self-produced these CDs. There are And I was talking to a friend of ours, Rick Miller, and he Rick is a musician who sells, he's produces
Hmm.
on albums and plays music, and I was talking to him about how like I took a CD from this guy, but I've never listened to it, and he said, well, yeah, that's because you didn't pay for it, so it's not exactly what you're saying. It doesn't
Yeah.
have that, like, you didn't fork over $20 for it. But
Also, Rick
here's the
isn't the
thing.
person I was talking about, just so you know. You
Rick,
knew that already, but
yeah, probably wouldn't have said it if I thought it was him. But the
yeah.
thing is, like, you have, so you get your CD into the hands of, let's say, 30 people. Like, 30 people take home their CDs. How many of those people actually listen to the CD? Let's be generous and say half, right? 15
Wow.
people are
I
listening
Yeah.
to the, like I'm saying, being generous. But let's say you are an artist and you sell your CD at Spin the Bottle, and maybe you sell two. So what's better, having two people who bought your CD or having 15 people who didn't but still listen to your music and will
Yeah.
maybe buy
Well,
more
I
of your
mean,
stuff?
and this is again, I'll go with the indie uh role playing game like community.
Sorry, the reason I'm laughing is both Steven and Drunk are gone, apparently.
Oh no. Any parting shots from either of them?
No, I was no parting shots. Steven was still commenting about the Google
Oh,
announcement,
I do
and
want to hear that. The only thing I was going to say is that in the TTRPG world, PDFs, right, are a big thing. You can get a PDF of a game for
yeah,
cheaper or for free, and lots of times people will read the PDF, and then if they like it, they'll buy the actual book. So in
yeah.
that way, it's actually kind of cool to do that. Especially for a lot of people, shelf space is. hard to come by. So,
But I mean,
um,
like, that's the problem. Accessibility versus value, right? What do you want? Do you want people to see your art, or do you want to get paid for your art? And people fall into
yeah,
two very different camps, right? You have, like you said, the people who, like, I worked hard to learn how to do this. I bought the materials. I spent time doing this. I deserve to get paid for doing this. Versus, I just want to contribute to the world in a certain way.
and it is funny. I mean, the people who want to get paid lots of times are making stuff that they don't like as much as the people who would do it for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, it seems like that because a job's a job, gig's a gig. So what did
yeah.
Stephen write about the Google thing?
I guess he's still here. You can never trust what YouTube says on the back end, but I was talking about how, like, being influenced by art as an artist at some point might get you in trouble because an AI crawler
Mm,
model might assume that you used actually some other art to
yeah.
create your own art. And he says, if you wear the Google AI glasses, Google will be able to tell you if you've ever seen an artist's work or heard a particular joke. They call it, quote, infinite contexts in the presentation.
Yeah, infinite context. One of the examples was, hey, where did I leave my glasses? And
Yeah.
it knows where your glasses were because it seemed
I
so.
use I use a part of something similar to that when I get in the navigation app that I have. It knows where I parked. So if I drive someplace and I park somewhere, and, like, say I go to a football game and I'm parked in the parking lot, I forget where I am. I just got to look at where the pin got dropped, and that's where my car is.
So yeah, I mean, if you see a visual like sort of representation of it, um, like it looks like at all the different frames of this video that it's been recording, this whole
Yeah,
time, and can learn stuff from it, and it's all really the way that I would think about it is this sort of, how when you're playing a video game
I don't.
and like the interface for the video game is a smartphone and like your
Okay,
character uses the smartphone to do everything that you would
okay.
normally do in game. It's basically one of those, but for the real world, if that makes sense. Like Google is creating higher level tools that are kind of an overlay for the world as it is now, and it's going to make the world easier to use. One of the cool things, and
In
I
the
think
meantime,
people,
Google Cal's buggy as hell.
I think a lot of people would be, more scared about this than I am, but one of the other things that they mentioned is that it's going to be able to use all of your Gmail as data, right? So the whole thing about, if you're not paying for a product and the product is you, that sort of thing, like
You are the product.
like so many pages upon pages of text that's saved in
Yeah.
this folder. Um, it's all available for you to collate in different ways and do that, and it's going to be your collaborator in doing this. And that was the one thing I was
Yeah.
I was talking about, how I kind of like OpenAI better, and it's not logical, it's just emotional, etc. Um, I realized that I will not have to choose between the two of these. They're going to be
It will choose
ubiquitous.
you.
Yeah, these things will be around. And again, the if you just forget about the notion of privacy, this stuff gets a lot easier.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're on that path. You remember when Gmail first came out, and a lot of people had very big problems because one of the parts of the terms of service for getting a Gmail account was that Google's ad bots were going to scan your emails. No human was looking at your emails, but their bots were going to look at your emails in order to serve you up relevant ads and whatever else they decided. And that was a big sticking point for a lot of people, and everybody just kind of forgot that that happened. And now everybody has a Gmail address.
I mean, a lot of people also forget about, or are, a lot of people still think the idea that our devices listen to us and serve up content based on what we say is
Yeah.
conspiracy stuff, but it's not. It's just how they work.
It's by design. Yeah.
Always on, always listening. And
Wait until this is from Steven. Wait until Google knows everything about your parents and tracks you from birth, including a projected map of psychological damage based on their personalities.
mm, yeah, mentioned that Betty's out of school now for full time. It's actually great. I mean, we don't, and don't take this as a sad thing, but we don't have a lot of friends around
Yeah.
here. Um, but we're our own friends, so we like hanging out. So the
Well,
family
that's good.
is kind of like that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like when I was Betty's age, I was like, I was itching to move out and go to college.
Yeah,
The moving out being the key part there. I didn't want to live at home anymore.
yeah. That's
But I'm
not how
glad that
that's not
Betty
how
likes
this is
living at
going to
home.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I still feel that Jennifer might um want her to
Highly
be more
encouraged.
independent,
Ah,
but she understands too. I think the differences between you know
I think at some
how Betty
point,
thinks and how it has
you never
been
know.
in the
At
past.
some point, Betty might want to,
Oh yeah,
venture out on her own.
absolutely. And it definitely. I mean, there that opportunity is there, right?
Yeah.
The idea of her not going into college right away doesn't mean that she won't have the opportunity to go into college.
Right.
It's just, you know, like there we had the ceremony where all the band kids were told what they were going to be doing. And I say it that way because I mean they were the ones who were asked, right?
Yeah.
But you're in front of all of your peers in this high school auditorium,
Oh,
and
geez.
it's Ronald is going to go to the University of Florida and
Yeah.
study architecture. All that. Here's your life planned out for you, etc. For Betty, it just said Betty is going to be moving to the Chicago area and looking for a job that will support uh,
Her
the
doting old
pursuit of
parents
art.
in their old age.
Yeah, no, no. Right
Well,
now, I mean,
Betty's
all
invited to hang out in Steven's bunker.
Stephen mentioned that, and she was like, so I'll share this with the podcast. Betty is a little bit frightened about the concept of the end of the world. So when that offer was made, it made her a little nervous. Um, like, what
Oh,
does Stephen know that she doesn't? And if I were meaner, I would say, "Oh, you know what's going on too," or whatever. But I didn't.
I actually, Steve, while you're here, Paul sent me your Betty's graduation notice. So it's at the theater on your desk if you want to go pick it up. The Betty's graduation party is on June 1st. Is that right?
If that's what it said somewhere,
All right.
I don't know. Jennifer's doing all of that.
Ah,
And if you're a listener to the podcast, don't necessarily show up.
we don't talk
You
about
won't
where
know where to
Paul
go
lives.
anywhere. Hey, speaking about where I live, it's the end of the episode, Ben.
It's the end of the show. Thanks for being on a delayed schedule today. I had a late scheduled meeting.
Oh, no
Um,
problem.
and I have some travel coming up, and so we're gonna have to do some twofers, but I'll let you know when those are gonna happen.
Sounds great. I always love a good twofer, Ben. And
Yay!
until next time I speak to you, I ask you to keep it wrong.
Keep it wrong, Paul. Talk to you next week. Bye, Stephen. I think